My name is Debra Scacco.
And I'm Aandrea Stang.
And we are co-directors of Brackish Water Los Angeles at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. And I think before we start, we'd just like to thank Fulcrum and Leonardo for having us, and also the Getty Foundation for making this work possible.
We wanted to start out by talking a little bit about the project and what it is. I came to Debra in 2019 when I was thinking about what CSUDH could present as part of PST, and I've grown up near the ocean, a lot of time in the ocean, and I knew that Debra was very interested in the river and had studied the Los Angeles River for about 15 years. So I approached her and asked if she was interested in doing a project about brackish water.
And so Aandrea likes to joke that she grew up with one foot in the ocean, and I do not joke that my 2 feet are firmly on concrete. So it made a lot of sense that this was like a really exciting opportunity to broaden this research into really thinking about water systems. As Aandrea mentioned, I have been studying the Los Angeles River for over a decade, and for over 25 years, I've made work about boundaries in relation to ecology, history, immigration, just all the things that it impacts. And being in California for the last 10 years, being in the midst of a climate crisis with water such a critical aspect of our life, this felt really important to not just think about the Los Angeles River, but how these various ecologies come together and impact one another. And, you know, with this collaboration, this has been a collaboration in every sense of the word that has seen us as the world has changed over the last couple of years. We initially began by, we've been slow and steady all the way through, right? So we began by meeting weekly at my studio for about 4 hours, I think, every week. And then when COVID set in, this collaboration has been such a gift as well, because to have such a deep working relationship with somebody and some kind of regularity when everything else was upside down was kind of amazing. So it's interesting because or for me anyway, we were sort of piloting this new way of working and really thinking about this very deep research as a team from step one. And so in some ways, this experiment really, you know, COVID was just like another aspect to the experiment, and to think about how we can navigate that. Also, as Aandrea likes to joke, that like our field work is in a field. So we were able to continue our work during this time, and also work with some amazing folks along the way.
That's our Debra's river and my ocean. And we do have pictures of where they meet. So what is brackish water? The project is a research project. It's a teaching project. It will be an exhibition, a programming and publication project. What is brackish water? We are not scientists, and but you know what we learned about brackish water is what it is not. It is not salt water, and it is not fresh water.
It is the space where they meet. And of course, there are scientific definitions of salinity levels and, you know, very specific information that qualifies something as brackish. But I would say, especially in the early research, I was under the impression that I was somehow just not understanding what it was. And now, a few years in, after conversations with multiple scientists, biologists, all sorts of folks that know a lot more than we do about this, the most common definition is not salt water and not fresh water. So it can be defined only by what it is not, which for us makes it even more exciting as a subject.
And it allows us to talk about it in a more metaphorical sense. Brackish Water Los Angeles discusses the paradox of the in-between. We have really organized our project so that we're not only talking about the science of brackish water, but we're talking about how brackish water, or the notion of brackishness, is about how we live in cities.
And one thing that we really want to highlight is that we've been using the research period very much as a research period. So really thinking about this as a time to explore both the metaphorical and scientific aspects of the in-between, and also to think of this as a real opportunity for really bridging the gap between science and life for a lot of folks, right? Because like science is life, science is our bodies, science is our waterways. So this felt like a really good opportunity for an entry point to discuss the multiple aspects of brackishness, both in a sort of cultural perspective and also a scientific perspective. So as we mentioned, brackish water is where fresh water meets salt water, habitats intertwine, and new cultures are born. And so this is such a critical critical ecology for climate mitigation. It's a critical ecology for landscape, yet in Los Angeles, we've lost nearly 90% of our wetland sites. So we liken this to how we live in cities. We liken this to how cultures live side by side, how cultures intertwine, and how we end up with this beautiful tertiary culture that is its own form of life and its own sort of generative space.
And why Brackish Water at Cal State Dominguez Hills? The Cal State Dominguez Hills campus is located sort of on the border of Carson and Compton, and the place where the campus was about 100 years ago was a wetland space. This is an image from the Autry's collection of what Southern California looked like. Parts of Southern California looked like about 100 years ago, or late 19th century. We have 17,000 students at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Of those students, over 90% come from underrepresented populations. Over 65% of our student body is first-generation college students. It's largely an undergraduate campus. And one of the things that we found that has been really great for this project has been that we're able to offer our undergraduate commuter student population a couple of courses that have been largely, reflect a graduate research seminar, which is not something that they have an opportunity to engage with a lot of the time.
And I would also add that a part of it for us is, as Aandrea mentioned, like why this project here, why us as the people that do it. And so it felt exciting to be able to work with a landscape that is relevant to the landscape that they live on, and also, again, like how we live in cities and how we communicate with one another. So with this in mind, we wanted to start the process by really thinking not just what can we, not just what can we gain from this opportunity, but also like what can we offer the student community, the wider Dominguez Hills community, and of course the art community. So we started this with a series of questions about research. And a lot of this comes from my own experience as a researcher, my own intimidation of entering the archives, of working with climate scientists, approaching folks at NASA, all these other things. And I think if we can offer our students one thing, it's really just the kind of nudge that all you need to be a researcher to start is to be curious, right? So we started with a series of questions of what is research, who is a researcher, what is effective and impactful research, and what is successful student engagement within humanities research. That then led us to the set of questions of what information is deemed valuable, who has authored the history that research is traditionally based upon, and what does it mean to know something? Who is an expert, right? So these are all questions that have been really critical to our own research process, both for us and the students that we're working with.
The key goal of the classroom as a laboratory is to lateralize the academic structure. We are inviting, acknowledging, and incorporating student expertise in an iterative manner.
And one of the ways we do this is through the field trips, right? Through our field work, where we've been lucky to have an incredible opportunity of advisors to lean on to understand better the right questions to ask, and then ask those questions with the students when we're in the field. So we do this through a combination of our own experience, the collaboration of lots of folks, students, advisors, artists, community members, with the intention being to use arts and culture as a vehicle to build community participation and awareness of water issues.
The way we've defined it, brackishness is a relational space between, amongst, within.
And within this space is a space for dialogue, questioning, and growth.
We have this picture up here of us because we really look at, not because we like pictures of us, but because we really wanted to think about the different relationships that we are cultivating through this project. The first relationship, of course, is our collaboration, and then it moves forward from there.
As I mentioned, we have an extraordinary group of interdisciplinary advisors from the arts sector, from the science sector, from environmental, like boots on the ground sector, also working with a number of Indigenous folks who are a part of the development of the project.
As well as community partners. This is one of the scientists from the Natural History Museum, and Debra, and a few other people.
And then our students, who we couldn't do this without. We're really viewing them as community experts. You know, as Aandrea mentioned, it is a large commuter campus. A lot of our students are local to the area, so they are experts in their community. They are experts on their relationship with water. And so one way of developing this project with, you know, the oceans and the rivers and everybody in mind is doing it together.
And looking at this picture, we were at the Cabrillo tide pools when this photo was taken, and many of our students, we've taught the class, we're teaching the class for the second time now, and we've recently taken students to the LA River. Last Friday, when it was so hot, we went to the LA River. Thank you. Our students, I think 2 of the students had been to the LA River before, and when we took them to the tide pools, only one of the students had been to the tide pools before, and very few of our students have been to the ocean. So really thinking about who they, you know, who has access to nature, this idea of nature, and what that experience means to them. And as you can see, they like jumped right in and, you know, got their hands dirty and touching starfish and sea cucumbers and so forth, with permission.
Yeah, and guidance. And so, you know, we've also gone to various local wetland sites that a lot of folks didn't know existed, including us, before this project. And then, of course, like I like to refer to this as mountain goating along the LA River. So that question of access becomes really, really clear when you actually begin to visit the LA River, also with people who are not you that you're responsible for, right? Of thinking like, okay, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be safe. And so the site that we visit at the LA River with both classes is the site where the water actually becomes brackish. And so it's a way to ask the students to envision what does this mean for the river and the ocean? How does this represent the river and the ocean to you? And how do these 2 sites come together? And how does that relate to your life? How does this green space relate to your life?
I think it's through these questions and conversations that we're creating an exhibition that will really celebrate this in-between space.
And so we would say Brackish Water Los Angeles, as we mentioned, is looking at the metaphor and the science of brackish water. And we aim to create a very rich dialogue that exists between these 2 spaces, right, in this relational space that covers many things, from the downstream flow from the river to the ocean.
The acknowledgement that nature and landscape are traditionally white spaces.
The human connection of brackishness through the in-between state of migration and what oceans mean to migrants.
The politics of ecology.
The contrasting materials of nature as city and city as nature.
The relationship of the concrete ribbons of the Los Angeles freeways and the LA River.
The poetics of the transitional nature of water.
The resilience of a corseted body of water that still allows for brackish spaces.
And of course, these more abstract concepts of brackishness will be balanced by historical and scientific content, and also works that relate directly to the science of brackish water.
We look forward to sharing the results of our research with you in 2024.
And I would say, you know, I think for both Aandrea and I, much of our work ends up being a kind of lifelong pursuit. I never thought, you know, over 10 years ago when I started looking at maps of the LA River that I'd be standing here still talking about it. So I imagine that this expansion will continue, and we hope to continue this conversation with all of you in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.